Hey Nut Nation, welcome back to another video. So I want to make a video about Powercreep. It seems to be a hot topic now because if you aren't aware, Mr. Pokey made a little tweet blaming basically people, saying it's their fault if Powercreep exists to them. I mean, I don't think he literally meant it as in like, it's your fault that Powercreep is happening. I've seen a lot of videos talking about whether it's actually a player's fault that's Powercreep's happening. No, it's not the player's fault. Hoyoverse is a company that literally hires people to make the game. They're coders, artists, people who literally make the game. I don't have to explain this, and we play the game, so they make Powercreep. So yes, it's not our fault. I think what he meant by, oh, is Powercreep our fault, is we can plan a certain way to pull good units, to pull strong units, plan our account in advance to make it so that when the inevitable harder enemies come, we will have sufficient preparation to, even if we don't clear as well as we used to, still clear relatively well. But I also think Mr. Pokey really worded it in a certain way that would maximize engagement. I mean, he's a content creator. He knows that, I guess like more nuanced takes won't generate more discussion because the answers already are in the takes. You want people to like respond to your response, then you respond to that, and then that's how you get a nuanced discussion online nowadays, I guess, if you even want to call it that. Although a lot of times it's just people yelling that you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, and I'm right. Anyway, without getting too off topic, I want to give my own little opinion on it, and not so much an opinion, just observation, different perspectives to consider that I really haven't seen be talked about. I think let's start off with the very obvious fact that this is a business. Hoyoverse is a very successful business actually that makes video games. And one of the selling points of these combat games, namely Honkai Star Rail, is characters and how strong they are. By having power creep, think about it this way, having enemies be stronger, you also need characters that can deal with them more. And to give those characters that can deal with those new enemies that are stronger appeal, you have to make those new characters stronger as well. And by doing so, the older characters become weaker. That's the whole premise behind power creep. They're not getting weaker, they're just less competent at dealing with the current content. And that sucks. I really think that does suck to see my Jingliu go from consistently 0 cycling with a team to now having to 5 or 6 cycle the hardest content in the game, which is a significant drop-off for sure. I also hate the fact that Pitchduck the Great isn't the most OP, strongest, one-shot everything character in the game as she should be. I think that is just terrible, terrible, and I'm deeply sad by that. Hoyoverse do better. But yes, at the same time, I realized that if Hook is the most OP character in the game, there'll be less incentive to pull units like Fei Xiao, Sunday, Fugue, upcoming Da Herta, and so on. Because, well, why do I need to pull them if I can just chill with my Hook and maybe just save for an eternity until my 5-star Pitchduck Hook the Great that would continue to one-shot the game, then release. So I guess in a way with these ramping up enemies and stuff, it's kind of like life, like some people would describe it. It's like you're walking on a conveyor belt. If you stop walking, you kind of fall off. Constant action is needed. I guess they're trying to emulate this with the gacha games, not in a very deep way. It's just, but that's just like how life is. And there needs to be new things to catch our attention. So yes, at some level, it's Hoyoverse's fault. At some level, it's our fault, etc., etc. I don't think that's a completely blame this, blame that perspective, right? If you want to take it literally, no, it's 0% our fault that power creep is happening. But are there ways to build your account to make your account stronger by pulling certain units? Yes, there are, right? But then we get into the discussion of, well, this is a character collection game. The game actively encourages you to like certain characters and pull the characters you like. In fact, the game just wants you to pull every single character in the game. But the problem arises from when we can't. And so there is discussion about the games being predatory and scummy and trash because we can't just play whatever characters we want and clear the game as well as possible. Well, I think that's just a side effect of the game having numbers and the game having some level of difficulty. Imagine if you could clear the game using any assortment of characters, because there'll be infinite combinations of teams. If everyone just plays the teams they like to play, the characters like to play, there'll be an infinite amount of teams. And for power creep and difficulty not exist, it would be like all those teams would need to be able to clear. And I guess the only difficulty would be to get them correct main stats and not even substats because people hate farming substats, correct main stat relics, correct set, and good light cone, and then level them and level their traces. That's the only difficulty. If you want to call it difficulty, it's not really difficult because all it takes is time, which you could argue is difficult logging in and playing the same thing every day. But that's up to you. It's very subjective. And I think the whole issue is like levels of subjectivity, right? So Hoyo has to standardize it somehow. And if they're going to make certain units easier to clear with than others, why not make it the current unit that is being released to even give more incentive for people to pull those units to clear? I think most of the time, this might be a hot take, but I don't think people even pull necessarily to clear. Like they pull a new unit because they like them and they're definitely going to be strong. And the side effect is that they clear exceptionally well currently as well. Another thing is that the gap seems bigger than it is between units' power. That definitely is a power gap with newer units compared to old ones. But the moment a unit is released, they seem insanely strong. When Fei Xiao was released, I could zero cycle with like E0S1 Fei Xiao with a sustain against MOC 12, for example. And I feel like every new unit, if you have like just a bit higher than average level of investment, they can like do really, really, really good. Just because the new endgame modes always favored towards them. And then once you move on to the next unit, those units would become weaker immediately because the content is less favored towards them. Needless to say, units that were released 1 year ago would need luck for the content to be favored towards them at the time. Mostly they won't be favored, right? So at the moment of release, the power creep seems so substantial because this character is on steroids and another character has not had any juice for a year, right? So the gap is big. And then when it moves on to the next character, then you see like the realistic gap, right? Like after, for example, Fei Xiao was released and then like, give it 1 or 2 months. And then now you can compare Fei Xiao to, let's say, another win DPS like Blade. And then I feel like that is the true like gap in their power, right? Also disregarding the fact that Fei Xiao almost has like a perfect 5-star limited team dedicated to her. If not, yeah, perfect lineup with Topaz, Aventurine, and Robin for her, and then Blade doesn't have like any really dedicated supports for him. And once he gets those, then the power will be even closer, right? And Blade might not even be stronger depending on the new units that get released that support him. So anyway, it's all very relative, and I feel like it's all such a dance. And the whole thing about discussing this online is everyone has a different experience of the game, very, very different experience of the game. It depends on how lucky you are. Do you win your 50-50s? Do you lose your 50-50s? Which characters did you get? Everyone's account is different. How, like, your level of investment on each character, like, sways so much perception. I feel that you can have like 2 completely different FTP accounts, 2 completely different Dolphin Whale accounts. Like, no 2 accounts are the same, period. So it's very difficult to discuss this, and that's why I think it's more worth discussing how there always needs to be a sense of progression. You might think that you want the game to be like the same in terms of enemy health pools and stuff and not have any progression, but once you reach the end game and then you can clear everything well, you would start to wish enemies were harder, I feel. And I'm just making up a fictional person in my mind for this. I think most people are in the end game. And for those of us who are in the end game, I think we also don't have the time to wonder, well, it would be nice to have harder enemies because Hoyoverse is already doing that for us. We don't have time to sit there with a stagnant enemy end game lineup and just wonder, it'd be nice to have a bit of challenge once in a while. Because the nature of it is your account keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger the more you play. There's no way for your account to get weaker. The only way for it to seem weaker is if enemies get stronger. So it's about whether you can outpace the difficulty in the game or not, right? And I think human nature is as such, we seek challenge. We want to do stuff that's difficult but manageable. If it's way too difficult and way too unobtainable in our minds, like if I give you a challenge to jump 20 feet in the air, I mean, that's not interesting at all because you know that's never going to happen. But if I give you a challenge to like jump, I don't know what's a good height to jump, like 3 feet. Maybe you can jump like 2.5 feet right now. I challenge you to like train to jump like 3 feet. I don't know why I chose this analogy. But if I challenge you to jump 3 feet, then it's like, oh shit, okay. And then like that's something that you can work towards too. And then once you achieve it, that's a lot of like dopamine. That's a lot of like satisfaction that you get from it. So I think it's like the same thing. We like challenge, but we like manageable challenge. The reason why a lot of outrage is happening with the power creep is maybe, I'm just theorizing, you're pulling characters you like and they don't happen to be strong, unfortunately. And then, or you don't play the game enough, you're hyper casual, you play the game like 3 times a month. And that isn't enough juice for your account to keep up with the rate of the game being harder. So, I mean, those are just some examples. Once again, infinite possibilities. There are no two same experiences in the world. So going back to the conveyor belt analogy with the whole like if you stop, you fall off kind of thing, there is a sort of cheat code in all this that a lot of people might not like hearing. You might not like me saying this, but it's kind of true that it's good that new characters are strong because that way, this game is really suitable for new players. Because with every major update, newcomers and returning players can start on the same starting line, in a sense. And I just stole that from Billy, by the way. That's one of the top comments on the video I saw there. But I think we all agree that new units are OP and the current endgame content is always tailored towards them. So yeah, if you think about it that way, that's true. Also, if I look at my own Discord server, there are a lot of people who started the game relatively recently and with some proper planning and stuff, are able to full start clear, like less than half a year in, without spending a lot of money as well, if any money. So there's that perspective as well. I also like to say that your account is not bricked if you can't do endgame content. Think of endgame content as like a cherry on top to if you conform with the meta, if you pull for strong units, you get a bit of reward, a bit of return on your investment that doesn't even cover the investment, but a bit of reward for doing that from like the strategy you can get. Even with very, very scuffed teams, as long as your characters are built well, I think you can get like a decent amount of the endgame content done as well. Clearing to floor 10, or like third stage of the other 2 endgame modes, is not a bad thing at all. That is so much jade you're getting. And just because you're not clearing floor 11, floor 12, which is mostly what people are complaining about, doesn't mean that you're bricked. You still get so much jade. And as a result, you don't even have to pull the strong characters. You can just pull the weaker characters. Yes, it sucks that, once again, going back to the whole thing, not every character can perfect clear with whatever team, but that's how it is. I think the game is already so simple and straightforward right now, and to make it even more simple and straightforward is akin to just like making it not matter at all, like what you do in this game. Make it like a true just like story game. So ultimately, like I said a lot of things, but what are the conclusions, right? Because we like conclusions. It's making Hoyoverse money, power creep. It is a natural thing. We all seek challenge and we want challenge. And once we are at a comfortable place, we will want to feel uncomfortable. That's just how it is. We all like searching for manageable levels of difficulty. And there are definitely things in Honkai style that can help you manage power creep a bit more better as well. Although, once again, it's not your fault that power creep happens. I don't know why that's even a discussion. And yes, you can still play this game to collect characters, and FOMO will be there when you see people clear full stars and stuff, because once again, we always strive to be the best we can as humans, and there'll be that. It's just something you have to come to terms with, I guess. So yeah, I guess that's all my thoughts on it. I might have more thoughts on it. And if I do, I'll probably talk about it on stream. You can ask me, twitch.tv/Nutty. If you disagree with anything here, you can let me know in the comments. If you agree, you can let me know in the comments. Yeah, I just thought I wanted to take part a bit in the discussion. I normally don't do videos like this, but yeah, it should be interesting. This wasn't the video I planned to release after a long hiatus. I actually just got back from a trip. But I'll be putting out a bit more guides soon and more maybe discussion yappy style content like this if that's what you guys want. Oh, and to end it off, yeah, I'm also struggling with the power creep. stuff, because I went from like 0 cycling just like 2 MOCs ago to now I'm like at 5 cycles. So yeah, I can clearly tell. But once again, this MOC just released, so it's made for update 3.0. So with Del Herta and Aglia and stuff like that, which the MOC is made for, then after I pull them, I expect to see like going back to like 1 or 2 cycles again. So yeah, anyway, it's just the same thing over and over and over again. It's the same thing. Bro, Honkai Star Rail? Is this the content we're doing Honkai Star Rail now? There's just nothing. We're just doing the same loop all the whole time. Anyways, bye Nut Nation. Take care.